What's going on, everyone? It is your boy Thriller here, and we're here for the week six pick'ems of the BBL this season, and we had some really cool matches on our way here. We have some first ever matchups here as well this week, so it's gonna be really awesome. So really looking forward to seeing how this goes down. But if you guys are excited, leave a like, give it a rate, subscribe if you're new, join the crew today because you'll be thrilling with the king of the crew. And with that being said, let's go ahead and what the hell? Let's go to hell. No, let's not do that. Let's have fun. Let's get into this week's pick'ems, and we're gonna just dive straight in. I'm sorry if some of the pick'ems have been a little lackluster in my analysis. Just at times I'm tired, so and doing these do take at least an hour worth of my time. So I'm just sitting down in one spot does takes a little bit of hour. So I do apologize if I'm sounding a little lackluster when I'm doing. But and then next week says next week's no. Week five's I spent almost about half the video talking about the transactions, but I felt it was more important to talk about those transactions because they can be a big effect for the team. So uh, but we're going to dive in here. I'm going to be as much analyst as I can be for this one, and we'll have to see how things go. With that being said, let's break down these weeks. First off, it's number one and number two going at it, baby. It is going to be Ant taking on Joey, and I'm really excited because Ant, if you guys know, is a very accomplished team prepper. I think with how he made his transactions, he made his team a lot better, which just shows you how good of adapter he is when it comes to building. And he's taken on one of the all-time best players in draft league, if not the best player in draft league, in Joey. So this should be a really fun matchup here. So let's look at the matchup first. Ant team, he has got Calyrex Ice, Galarian Slowking, Miascarata, Scizor, Walking Wake, Donphan, Basculegion Female, Quillfish, Munchlax, and Galarian Moltres, where he is taking on Joey's team, which is Mewtwo, Zarude, Terra Zarude, with also the Terra Walking Wake there. With the Terra Zarude, Enamorus, Gliscor, Iron Crown, Primarina, Gouging Fire, Smeargle, Avalugg, and Vileplume. From Ant's side here, looking at Joey's team, is there no shocker that Calyrex Ice can pretty much just destroy everything under Trick Room? I don't know. You tell me. Um, I think Calyrex obviously massive bring this week. Glowking is interesting this week. I could see it being brought. If it's brought though, I think it's forced to be Cobra Berry in this matchup because I do think Cobra has to have it. I don't hate a Chili Trick Room set here with Chili Reception Trick Room. And then picking two coverage moves that you think works best for the rest of the team matchup. But I just think that's really good there. Meowscarata, I don't hate this matchup. I think it's really strong here. I actually could see Ant doing something really crazy going with Special, because Special can be really good in dealing with the Gouging Fire if it really wanted to go for that route. And plus, Gliscor in some matchups are most likely going to be physically defensive or mixed defensive if it's brought, so you can go with that route. But or I could see a mix Meowscarata potentially. Who knows? Excuse me. But yes, right up. Could come, could not come. It really comes up in the air. Scizor is interesting this matchup. I think Scizor is pretty decent. I don't think it's an entirely great matchup for Scizor, but I do think it is a mon that can do work for Ant this week as an offensive breaker with Choice Band. I hate an SD set, but I think Choice Band looks the best here. Terra Walking Link obviously always comes. And in terms of the Terra types, I really don't know what you go with. I think Dragon can make sense. Water makes sense. Fairy would make a ton of sense. Even Fire could make some sense. So that way you can take the Gaji Fire it gets and then use the resistance of the Dragon. The resistance of Fairy from the Enamorus. Who knows? There's a couple of options there. Donphan, don't know if you bring Donphan. I feel like if you bring Donphan, you're just committing to it's going to be a hazard mon. And if Joey doesn't look like he has any major hazard setters, and he's going to use Donphan a little more freely to kind of be more offensive and just use his utility, if anything like that. Basque Legion female, definitely think it comes. Dual stab looks really strong into Joey's draft. Joey has a very hard time switching to the dual stab of Ghost and Water. Quillfish regular, it could come. It could not. It really kind of depends on what Joey really wants to do with his team, but I think Quillfish could potentially come as a spiker this matchup. But who knows? Oh, sorry for yawning, guys. I don't know why I'm tired. I think it would make sense if he brought out though. I don't think it's just Munchlax. Just keep warming up that bench, buddy. Galarian Moltres, I definitely think has a good shot at being brought. This Mon is super strong into Joey, as Joey does not have a good flying resist that is the Iron Crown, but loses to the Galarian Moltres. So this Galarian Moltres is about to go dummy stupid into Joey this week. So definitely think Ant's got a good team matchup here into Joey. With Joey's side, I think Mewtwo still really strong here. I think has a lot of cool sets it could run here. I like a Will-O-Wisp set here. I like specs. I like setup. There's a lot of ways I think this Mewtwo could be ran into this matchup. Zarude with Terra is going to be very interesting this week. I could see a couple of options. I could see potentially Steel. I could see. Excuse me. I could see Fire. Like I can just see some good defensive options for this Terra with it being used offensively. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But Zarude, fantastic mon in this match as well. Can really do a lot, especially if that terrible ass coverage. Enamorus, don't really think Enamorus comes. It's not that strong of a mon in this matchup. I don't think it really helps Joey a lot here. Gliscor is really up in the air for this one. I think Gliscor can be useful and good in this matchup. But I don't know if Joey really wants to risk it unless he can't feel like he can get his hazards up comfortably and make sure the hazards stay up there. But I could see Joey definitely running it. Iron Crown, again, another Pokemon that I do think has a decent shot at coming. But if the Meowscarada is here and the Galarian Moltres are here and the Donphans are here, it's going to be really hard for that Iron Crown to do much work. So it would be interesting to see it be brought, but I don't hate it being brought. Ugh, ugh. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. I apologize. Primarina, could see it come. It's not a bad matchup. Specs looks pretty strong here. Pretty much a free click into anything you want here. Barrier moves are very hard resisted. Any barrier moves you resist, you can either run Psychic or Shadow Ball, something like that. I don't hate Specs for Marina this matchup. I also don't mind Screens. I think Screens also looks really good. But we'll just wait and see. Gouging Fire, another amazing matchup for the boy. Obviously, the only big threats he's going to have to worry about is the Dawn Fan and the getting the Snowball for Calyrex and the potential offensive walking wig. But I do think the Galvantire does really good. It does suck that sadly Joey has not been able to pop off with this Pokemon. But that's just how the nature of matchups go sometimes. I think in nature of matchups forces you to have to really adapt and make the decisions you don't really want to. Especially when you've been seeing the work with mocks and stuff like that. But I'm hoping this can be the gouging game. Gouging definitely deserves a chance to be in the thumbnail and get into this week. Smeargle, there's a decent chance Joey could bring Smeargle. Smeargle's an annoying mon. And one of Ant's favorite Pokemon is Smeargle, so I think Ant knows better than anyone that he's going to respect the Smeargle, and he might be forced to run safety goggles at a Pokemon. And it might be something like the Calyrex or the Walking Wake or something, just to make sure Smeargle doesn't put it to sleep. So definitely think Ant was going to 100% respect Smeargle and prep, and definitely going to prep for that. Avalugg, funny enough, I actually don't hate Avalugg's matchup. Avalugg's matchup's actually not that bad in his match. Is it great though? No. But can it be useful? It kind of can be, yeah. Avalugg can wall things like Scizor, Calyrex, the Meowscarada, depending on the Terra type, the Donphan. The only Pokemon it would have a hard time wanting to deal with would just be the Walking Wake, Basculegion, and the Moltres. Other than that, Avalugg kind of takes on everything else pretty damn fine. So definitely would not be surprised to see Avalugg rock here again. Vileplume, I know Joey's been dying to bring this damn thing, but unfortunately it's another week where Vileplume is just really bad. But in terms of this matchup here, I'm actually going to give it to Ant. I think Ant has just a really solid matchup into Joey. Now, Ant's team, I think, has all the pieces that it does with between Calyrex, Wake, Basculegion, and Galarian Moltres. His main four. His other two could definitely be lined up there. Like I could definitely see Scizor being brought as the fifth, and then Donphan, or then Scizor Quillfish, Scizor Meowscarada, or Meowscarada Quillfish, like stuff like that. But overall, I just think Ant's team matches up really well with Joey. But Joey does have some pieces, and obviously Joey will know kind of the ins and outs. He's been obviously watching Ant play these matchups, so he's kind of got the feel of how Ant likes to build this Calyrex. So he's going to have at least a bit of knowledge thinking about exactly what he wants to do against this Calyrex. So definitely not counting Joey out, but I do think in terms of the matchup, I got to give it to Ant here. Up next, another matchup that's literally right next to each other, which makes it so nice to make it so easy on myself. We've got Shuckle King and Obo. And fun fact, Obo and Shuckle King have actually played before at least one time that I remember. And that was a really old showdown league that Shuckle King got to join, and Shuckle King went undefeated. and they all thought it was a good idea to fight him when he was one of the best players, if not arguably the best Gen 8 player, Gen 7, Gen 8 player in the format because he rarely lost any Wi-Fi. So this is gonna be a nice full circle battle here, and I do think this is gonna be a really interesting battle to say the least. So looking at Shuckle King's team, he has got Zashi and Iron Shreds, Ogrepon Wellspring, which is his Terra Captain, Latios, Starcry, the Axis Defense, Petrifront, Delphox, and that warming the bench, Quillen and Cantera, but he's never been brought. Up next, we have Elbow here with Groudon, Terra Raging Bolt, Screamtail, Rillaboom, Roaring Moon, Skarmory, Volcanion, Conkeldurr, and Porygon 2. Very interesting matchup here. Definitely think these teams can go a lot of ways here. And I think so. Let's start with Chuck. I think obviously Zacian, biggest threat to Elbow. 100%. That Mon has very little switch ins here. Now, if you guys saw my battle against Crab when he had Zacian, I had told you that he had agility on his Zacian. So I would not be surprised by Shuckle King if he brought Zacian with an agility set. Like something like sub agility and then either running the one stab option into this matchup. Like Player Off kind of just cleans every single KO, and then Fire Fang does a lot. But I could see agility through attacks if we can get the opportunity to do so with the +1 and just go from there. But again, it really kind of just depends on what Choco does. But I think it's actually easy bring here. Iron Shreds is very interesting this week, as I do think it's probably a mon you cannot afford to bring this week. Just because of the fact that Raging Bolt can tear out of the type and beat you 1v1. Rillaboom kind of beats you 1v1. Rory Moon, I know for a fact, can beat you 1v1. Skarmory beats you 1v1. Volcanion beats you 1v1. Boring. Conkeldurr beats you 1-on-1. I just think Treads has a really terrible matchup here. I think it's really good. Ogrepon and Wellspring definitely think it comes. Definitely doesn't need you to rely on any water stab this matchup for the most part. And hell, we probably don't even see any water stab on this thing. We probably don't even see Ivan coverage. We see something like grass coverage and then whatever coverage movie needs and potentially spikes or spiky shield, which would be a thing. Latios definitely think it's got a good shot to be brought. I don't know if it's a guaranteed bring though based on the team that Bobo has, but I do think Latios is very fair here. Darkrai, I think, is a very fantastic matchup for Darkrai. Obviously, the only thing it's got to be worried about is potentially Screamtail and Conkeldurr, but I don't really think Conkeldurr comes. Conkeldurr doesn't really do a lot, if not anything, in this matchup. The only big threat he's going to deal with Screamtail, but I think Latios can definitely take that Screamtail on very well and do a lot of work. So Darkrai definitely looking like a very massive threat this week. The Deoxys defense definitely think it comes just for spikes and hazards, but I think he's definitely going to be careful of how Skarmory is brought this week. I think Skarmory is going to be forced to be defog here, which we'll talk about a little bit here, but definitely a Pokemon that can be easily brought here. Petrifront, another fantastic mon this matchup. Expecting a fully Fizz Death Petrifront, just to be able to take the hits from Groudon and all the other moves out there. But I do think Petrifront is a very annoying mon for Opal to deal with because he does not have a poison type. So the fact that poison typing can just kind of go crazy against him is going to be a little crazy. Delphox, I low key think, is brought this matchup. Delphox can do a lot of damage here. Dual stab is very hard for Opal kind of deal with into the coverage of move. Just something Dazzling Gleam is really annoying as well. So just a really good mon that he also can take advantage of the sun. So I definitely think that is a good shot at being brought here. Like with Obo's team, Groudon I think does well every single week. Groudon has really been proving to be a good mon for Obo, so he definitely is really made sure that people were seeing that he did not regret making that his first choice. I definitely thought it was a little weird to have as a first, like your first overall pick, but based on where you were at, you weren't going to get it back. So, and I've been seeing how good Groudon can really be in singles. So, really good prep there from Owen. Obo, I should say. I keep wanting to call them both Owen, but then I just get confused, so I have to call them by their Discord names. So, but Obo, Raging Bolt, really good Mon this week. I think it's going to be. Uh, While I think about that, I'm going to pause this and just make sure that Try and Connect screen is gone. I'll see you guys in just a minute. All right, we're back. I just didn't want that Trying to Connect thing to stay on there for you guys for a while there. But for Raging Bolt, I could see Terra Grass. Terra Grass could make sense. I could see Terra Poisoned. I could see Terra Water because that seems to be the only Terra type besides Electric that OO likes to run. But I don't really hate water. I mean, I don't hate water, but I don't think water's really that good. I kind of like grass because it completely walls Ogre Pond. Obviously, the only thing that's a little concerning is going to be the Pecharon and the Delphox, so could be something different, but I don't know. But I think Reggie Volt does really well here. Screamtail, I don't know if it's a guaranteed bring, but I do think it's got a ton of merit here. The problem is going to be with what Obo kind of goes with. Does he want more of a Fizz Def screen tail or a Def screen tail? I think mix is okay. It's just not going to be 100% the greatest, in my opinion. But it's definitely going to be a mon. Yeah, actually, sorry, I was just talking to myself. It's gonna be really interesting though to see what exactly he's gonna want to do with it. So, a really interesting mon this week, but we're just gonna have to wait and just see what happens. You know what I mean? See what happens. Rillaboom, I want to say you bring Rillaboom as there's not a really good grass switch in. And whenever you can go for grass switching, you have coverage for. So I don't hate Rillaboom this matchup. Roaring Moon, a really strong Mon this week. Again, another Mon that really benefits from the sun. I kind of like Scarf. Scarf's a little bit more of a risky play because it relies on just your speed set for that one. Obviously, your outspeed things from Latios and down below, but you won't outspeed things like Scarf Darkrai and stuff, and also you can just outspeed the Zacian. But I also don't hate a DD variant with booster energy, or just a DD variant in general with Roselli potentially. I don't hate that at all. I think it's a really strong Mon in this matchup. Skarmory, I do think Skarmory is an instant bring this week as he's a really good wall into a lot of things. It can wall Pecharunt to an extent and just constantly phase it out. It can 1v1 the Zacian if it's on Fire Fang. It 1v1 Treads. It can 1v1 the Ogre Pond to an extent. It can take on the Latios and Darkrai. It's a decent mon. I don't know if Obo really wants to bring it. If Obo brings it, though, he's forced to run Defog. I think he has no choice but to do Defog this matchup. Volcanion is another one where it's really strong this week, but I don't know if it's a guaranteed bring. As because one of the mons you want to hit with your fire move, with your water moves, is going to be not be able to hit there, but you do have options to run fire and ghost. Fire and ground. I think fire and ground is kind of all the Obo really needs, but I think having something to be able to hit Latios for some good damage would be nice. But we'll have to wait and see with that. But I do think Volcanion is really good. Conkeldurr, it's definitely not bringing, and I think Porygon 2 could potentially come. I don't hate the idea of Porygon 2 being brought because it could just be a Fizz Def or Sped Def wall to just wall everything against Shuckle's team. But I don't think it's really that great of a mon overall. But it's gonna be interesting. So with this, oh man, this is a tough. This is a tough one. I actually don't know who I'm going to pick to win this one because I think both teams can match up really well into each other for what they both offer. I just don't know who would win more of the advantage here. God, this is such a tough choice. I actually think I'm going to give it to my boy Obo. I'm putting my faith in Obo. I think just by some fractions here on the team matchup here, I think Obo's matchup is really better here. I especially will say this: I like Screen Tail in this matchup. A Reflect Light Screen set with Sun, and to be able to set up the Raging Bull, the Roaring Moon, or even the Little Canyon to an extent, or even Rillaboom to that certain degree. I think it's really strong and really good. So that's for me, personally speaking, my choice that I would go with in terms of what I would think a Screamtail set would do well here. Don't mind me just fixing something there. So I am going to pick Owo for this matchup. Up next, we've got my boy D-Ray and Keegan. But we got Keegan and D-Ray, and this should be a really interesting matchup here. So we got Keegan's team here, which is Lunala, Greninja, Terra King Gambit, Florges, Blastoise, Infernape, Bronzong, Dudunsparce, Houndstone, Mudsdale, and Swalot. Where D-Ray has the Kyurem White, Deoxys Speed, Annihilate, Alolan Ninetales, the regular Slowking, Cyclizar, Blaziken, Shadow Sandy Shocks, Thwacky, and Skunting. So let's look at this team from D-Ray's perspective. Lunala, I claim every damn KO on your team. That's pretty much how it goes. Lunala is just insanely hard for D-Ray to really deal with. I think Lunala is forced to be Scarf this week, so it's definitely be a little annoying there. But it's going to be really interesting to see how he's going to do with it. I do think it's going to be a Mon that's not going to do any justice for him and what he wants to do. Terra King Gambit, definitely think that's a good bring here. In terms of the Terra type, I don't hate Steel per se, but I also don't hate Ghost. I think Ghost, Steel, or even potentially Fairy, I think are the best three Terra type choices in this matchup. I think Fairy, just because it's a good super effective hit into Annihilate before it Terras, and it's also a good super effective hit into the Cure One if you don't want to go for the Steel type move in that regards. But it's again one of those three. I think is a big chance, and it's a really strong mon. Greninja, I could see being brought. I wouldn't be surprised if Keegan didn't want to bring Greninja, but I do think Greninja's a really solid mon, and he can do a lot of work for Keegan. The Dunsparce, don't think it's going to be brought with having two fighting types, even though one fighting type is going to tear out of it. It still has that fighting type coverage. I don't know if it's a guaranteed bring, but I don't really know, man. It's really tough to say if that's the case. Houndstone, funny enough, Houndstone is actually not terrible here. Kind of like a defensive Houndstone with body press and Will-O-Wisp kind of just wins because it can Will-O-Wisp whatever it needs to chip down, and they can just body press Evan. There is not a single body press resist on this team that is not named Annihilate. And Annihilate Terras, then it's no longer going to be a resist to body press. So as if it's fluffy Houndstone. So who knows? We could see Houndstone being brought. It's not a terrible idea, but it's not good. Swalot, never expect that thing to be coming. Mudsdale, definitely don't expect that thing to be coming. Infernape is interesting. I think Infernape is super strong in this matchup. Definitely do expect that thing to really become. I think again, like Keegan's gonna be forced to run Scarf. I think Scarf 8 is not a bad set. But I did this team, I would have loved SD Mach Punch. I would have loved SD and try to go for like an agility set or an agility left life orb variant. I would have loved to see Infernape just be breaking with choice bane hits as well. But we'll have to wait and see what Keegan can cook with this mob. Bronzong. I do think Bronzong's a very safe matchup here. I kind of like a stored power Bronzong, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think Iron Defense, Body Press, stored power, and then either Trick Room or Calm Mind with a Citrus Berry or leftovers, whatever you want to go with. I do think you're forced to be Levitate in this week's matchup here, which I think is all you really need. But I think this Bronzong could cook and do a lot of damage to D-Ray if he lets it happen. Um, Okay, there's last two. Florges, do you think Florges comes? It's a really good spit def wall to a lot of things, and it also is a very annoying mod for DOW to take out. And then last but not least is Blastoise. Again, Blastoise, I don't really know if you're bringing it with two mods. I have Freeze Dry here, but I don't think it's that great. I don't think Blastoise is going to come. So up next, we have D-Ray's team, Cherum White. Cherum White is super strong here. Cherum White can be really devastating, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's just a really insanely rough matchup for Cherum White. And I say that because of this. King Gambit is very annoying when you don't know what Terra it's going to be and how you can just deal with it. Flora just walls you the end of con. End of con. You have an Infernape that can outspeed you and just destroy you. You have a Bronzong that walls you. You have a Dunsparce which can be tanky and annoying. So there could be a small chance D-Ray might not even bring this. It's a risk that he would have to be taking if he didn't bring this. But I don't hate him if he didn't want to bring it in that sense. Deoxys Speed, again, another Pokemon that actually could potentially not show up, but I don't think it's a bad law in this matchup. I think a mix set is probably the best set to go with here. I don't think I would want Dio to be a hazard spot. I like Dio more as an offensive breaker this week. Who knows? Annihilate, a really solid mon this week. If I had to pick what kind of Terra type for Annihilate to go this week, I don't hate the idea of Steel once again. Steel is a very good defensive typing and it can help take a lot of things like the King Gambit. If it's even a Fairy type, it takes out two of the three moves that's going to be clicking into it. It will be wanting it. I think Steel is also good for Forges. I also don't hate the option of potentially a Terra Fairy set. A Terra Fairy would be a little bit stupid, I won't lie, but I don't think it's a bad bring into whatever things are. Also, Terra Ghost makes a ton of sense, but Terra Ghost kind of leaves you opened up for Ghost spam and the Dark spam from King Gambit. So, gonna be very interesting to see how D-Ray plans with it, but I do think it's a really good mon. Alolan Ninetales maybe comes, it maybe doesn't. I really don't know. If it comes, it's full on Veil support. I don't think it does anything else like that. I think it just sets up Veil and the Spit's job. It's not meant to do anything else. Unfortunately, I do think D-Ray doesn't need to run Moonblast though this week. I think he can run something like Dark or Ghost coverage for the Bronze on you if it's brought. Because all you really need is freeze drying, right? I don't think you really need anything else besides that. The only reason I would say you would want your fairy coverage is to hit King Gambit, but if King Gambit tears out of his steel typing, then you don't really need Moonblast anymore. But who knows? You can still run with that. Again, Ninetales, very 50-50 matchup for it. Blaziken. Now, Blaziken has a very unique matchup here. Blaziken is super strong here. I think if we honestly get an SD off and a protect, we can kind of just win. Now, SD protect is very risky because you have to run the right set for that to work. And obviously, D-Ray wants knockoff. He wants that knockoff for that Lunala. And then fire coverage pretty much is spammable besides the Greninja and the Blastoise, realistically speaking, and the Inferno. Those three alone. But I do think D-Ray can fit Swords Dance on this build. I It is risky going SD with no protect or protect. If he's going two variants. He's either going with SD, three attacks of Life Orb or something boosting like Expert Belt, or he's going to protect Life Orb with three attacks. He's going with one of those two sets because it's one of the two best matchups into Keegan's team based on how D-Ray wants to position his Blaziken. So it's an interesting choice to say the least, but it'll be more interesting to see how he can perfect it or execute it. All right. So just give me a quick second, guys. I'll be right back. Breaking the fourth wall. I spent probably over a couple hours. Um, as you can tell, I was doing other stuff besides this. So I'm gonna wrap up this battle analysis and then we're gonna go on to the next one. But looking at the matchup here for D-Ray versus Keegan, I'm going with Keegan. I think Keegan's got a way better matchup here, and I think he just overall has really good things that paired well in the D-Ray. D-Ray definitely could win this, but D-Ray's got to really position himself carefully for this end game. But I really do think D-Ray does really well in this week's matchup. So really looking forward to see how D-Ray does. But I do think Keegan is going to win pull the way here. Up next, we got my boy Del D Double taking on Chimpack. And both teams in another situation here are 0-4. No, 0-5? Yeah, 0-5, I think. I didn't want. Obviously, I'm recording this on the week of week 5 battle going up. I don't know if Chimp won. So Chimp's either going to this battle 1-5, 1-4, or he's going this 0-5. And Dell is either going this 1-5 or 1-4 or 0-5. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what I'm But basically, it's Dell versus Chimp, and I know for Dell this is going to probably be a really exciting game for him because he's taking on someone that has done draft for a lot longer, just the same time as Joey has and stuff. So definitely think Dell's looking forward to this matchup. So looking at Dell's team, he's got the Sogalea, Urshifu Single Strike, Landers T, Ogerpon, Latias, which can dare by the way, the Ogerpon, not the Latias, Heatran, Diancie, Cincino, Dundozo, and the Wug Trio, the goaded Wug Trio from his match against Jelly. And up here we got Chimpack's team with the Zekrom, Terratorty, Tarapagos, Chinkaton, Landorus, Sinistcha, Overquill, Ogreupon, Heartflame, and the Keldeo. Looking with Dell. Solgaleo's pretty interesting this week. Solgaleo is one of those mons that does good, but it's also kind of one of those mons that kind of does a little bad in this matchup between Overquill, Ogrepon, and the potential Terra 20 and the Lando I. So gonna be very interesting to see how it does. I do think Urshifu Single Strike looks pretty strong here. Not a lot that kind of stops it from just clicking attacks in this week, which is really nice. I do not expect regular Ogre Pond to be brought this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dell wanted to bring it. It would be a random choice to be honest, but I do see his merits of bringing it. Lando T, don't really think you bring it, but I do think you're kind of forced to into a matchup with that Zekrom in it, so definitely could see it being forced to be brought. Dozo. Excuse me. Definitely, I don't think you bring down Dozo. It doesn't really match up that well in a lot of things. Wugtrio, he needs to rest. He had a very exhilarating battle against Joey the other time, so he needs his rest. He needs his rest from week 4. So um never really well off the top of my head. Diancie, I don't think you're reading Diancie. Diancie doesn't really match up that well here. Cincino, I actually could see potentially being brought. Cincino, besides the Tinkaton, can actually kind of cook. It kind of just beats about everything on Chip's team as soon as you get Terra Shell broken, and also if you can get rid of that Tink early on, or if you can find some way to hit it with Cincino for super effective damage of some sort. So there's that. Heatran is interesting. Heatran's pretty decent in this matchup, but I don't think he's realistically be bringing it. Just amount of coverage options and stuff like that. Basically, you're seeing what I'm getting at here. Is that Dell's just gonna have a super rough matchup against Chim's build. If he actually had Weavile, Weavile would have been really good for him here. So that's a little unfortunate for him. And Latias is actually a really strong mon in this matchup. I think you just have to get past mostly the Tink and the Overquill, but other than that, you can kind of just win the game outright if you position yourself really carefully. Now with Chip's T, but Territory T about to go stupid because excuse me, expecting either Terra. I'm most likely expecting Terra Flying. Terra Flying makes the most sense in this build. Whereas the Zekrom is also very fantastic. I can see a clearing and Zekrom and just setting up a D dance and then just going to town and just picking things off. If you heard my cat, I apologize, but she wants to be known and she wants me to give her love. She can get love later. We're right now doing a recording. Overquill's pretty interesting in this matchup here. It can actually put a lot as a good defensive pivot, but can still do a lot of damage output, which is really nice. Pokemon Heartflame Battle of the Ogres could be this week, and I definitely think the Ogre on Heartflame has a really good matchup here, as the water is kind of forced to be broad. The rock type can't really be doing much to it. It just overall a really annoying, good offensive team for Heartflame. Excuse me. Keldeo, fantastic matchup here. I think the only things that Keldeo is going to really worry about is potentially Dondozo if it's brought and the Latios. But other than that, Keldeo kind of just claims lives. Keldeo is really strong, really good offensively in this matchup as well. Terapagos, I think, is going to be brought every single week no matter what. It's actually a pretty solid line in most weeks. Tinkaton is interesting. Tinkaton, I do think, is almost forced to be brought as a really good physically defensive check to things like Cincino and Urshifu and Solgaleo. Lando, I definitely could see that being broad. That's a really good mod in this matchup offensively. Might be forced to be scarfed just because of the base of the matchup. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But just overall, it's a super strong mon this week. Sinistra maybe shows up. I don't think it's 100% guaranteed to show up, but it's definitely a good mon in this matchup. He can do a lot, but I don't know if he's going to 100% bring. Has he even brought the Sinistra? I'm actually kind of curious. He has. Only once, though. Interesting. And I think we talked about everything else. Yeah. But yeah, for this matchup, as much as I would love to pick Dell, I think we all know I have to pick Chim for this one. Just like Chimp's matchup is just it's super good. Like I don't know how you stop this matchup with Chimp. But now we get into a really cool game. We get a cool game in the Nexus versus Vepsis. Yes, rhyming time. Let's go. So we have got Vepsis here with the Rayquaza, Iron Valiant, Zamazenta Crown, Mesprit, Klefki, Alamola Glamora, Thunderous T, which can Terra, the Sandaconda, which can Terra, and the Incineroar, while my man Nexus is rocking out with the Magearna, Necrozma Dawnwings, Ting Terra Salamence, Sneasler, Uxie, Manaphy, Muck, and the Abomasnow. So, really interesting matchup here. Let's talk about it from Vep's side of the point here. Rayquaza, in my honest opinion, is a little tough to bring, but I do think it's going to be bring because, again, it's your Uber of choice. If you can't bring your Uber, then what's wrong with you? But it is a little bit of a rough Rayquaza matchup. I do think Boots Rayquaza looks a lot bit better in this matchup. I think Boots with either SD or Boots with a just full off breaking set potentially. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of things you can kind of do with it this week. Zamazenta Crown is Interesting. I do think it has a chance to show up, but I don't think it's guaranteed to show up. Obviously, things like the Salamence, which can Terra and beat it 1v1, Sneasler that can beat it 1v1. Uxie, to an extent, can wall this thing to the ends of time with rest, sleep, talk, and psychic noise, so he can't rest and without health backup. But who knows? Iron Valiant, very interesting mon this week. I do think it's got a pretty decently good matchup here, but it'll be very interesting to see how Valiant does perform in this match. So, going to be interesting to see if we see mix, physical. I think we're forced to see a booster speed variant just to make sure you can check +1 Salamence or even potentially the Sneasler. If it is not already birded, it's unbirded, so we'll have to worry about that. Worry about that. Whew, excuse me. Incineroar, I think Incineroar actually matches up really strongly here. I think the only thing Incineroar is going to have to really worry about is going to be the Manaphy and going to be dealing with that potential Ting Lu and the Salamence and Sneasler. But I do think this Incineroar does have a pretty severely good matchup here. Don't think we see Sandaconda. Sandaconda's kind of mid to this matchup. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still pretty decent. But I think, especially when you have your Terra Captain and Thunderous, I think Thunderous, who's a Terra Captain, this matchup can go dummy stupid this matchup. I think Terra Steel or potentially Terra Fairy or even Terra Fly looks really good this matchup. Just a really strong breakers for this match. I feel like Vebs just really wants to grab a Terra type that can benefit him the most this matchup. I can see Terra Ground. Terra Ground would make sense to hit Sneasler for super effective damage, hit the Magirna for super effective damage, and if then Salamence tears into a type and that's with Terra Ground, that. But very interesting to see how Vepsis is going to perform with it. Glamora, I do think Vepsis is going to obviously bring like a focus sash lead because again, there is no hazard removal on Nexus' side. So I think just bringing Glamora just for the fact you're going to get hazard stacks is really important for that matchup. Is there anything else I missed? Pretty much the defensive core. Mesprit could come. Healing Wish is definitely really good at this matchup in terms into Nexus and dealing with some of his more bulky mons once they weigh him down, brings him back up to full health, and just kind of revenge down everything else. Alamola, I could see being brought. Alamola's not a terrible mon this matchup. He definitely does a lot of good work for Vepsis and good broad through pivoting. And then Klefki, another solid mon this week that could definitely do work with setting up the spikes. But again, if Glamora's coming, I don't think you're really expecting Klefki to come unless you're going with screens. Now, looking at Nexus team into Vepsis, I think Magirna goes dummy stupid. Magirna is going to really just run through Vepsis if Vepsis lets it do that. It's a super strong Mon this week and does a lot of damage. Necrozma Dawnwings is another fantastic Mon this week. Besides the Incineroar, name a Mon on Vepsis' team that can take that damn thing on very comfortably well. I'll tell you what, nothing does. Look at this matchup for this line. It is insanely destructive and is already getting another matchup than Spectre would ever have. So, really looking forward to seeing this Dawnwings to put in a ton of work this week for Nexus here. Ting do you think Ting Lu has a fair shot to be brought? Ting Lu's a really good mon into a lot of the special offensive upsets have. Where if he goes special with the Valiant or special with the Thunderous T, really good just tanky mod to be able to do a lot for him. And excuse me. And just to be able to take some stuff on really well. I think is really great. Salamence, of course, you bring Tyler Salamence every single week. Very interesting tariffs slots to bring this week. I think Steel makes a lot of sense. I think Fairy makes a lot of sense. Flying could also make a lot of sense. Very interested to see what kind of mindset Nexus is going to go with this. Obama Snow, I don't think you bring Obama Snow. Obama Snow is pretty bad this matchup. I don't think it really does you a lot of work here. Uxie is fantastic. I think Uxie is definitely a pretty good defensive bring here to pair with Yorjing Lu. Sneasler is interesting. I think Sneasler has good but bad matchup at the same time. It's bad matchup because Rayquaza, if it's not Scarf Sneasler, cannot be outsped and be dealt with. If it's SD unburdened Sneasler, then dealing with Bandit Extreme Speed from Entei, Rayquaza is something there. Sneasler matches up really well into Valiant for the most part. It matches up really well into Zama. It can do match up really well into Klefki, Aloe, Glim, Thundy if it's teared out of its typing potentially. And then the Incineroar. So I do think Sneasler has a fair shot of being brought here. I do think it's a really good matchup for Sneasler. Manaphy can go dummy stupid this matchup. Manaphy with Tailglow kind of just claims every single life you would ever want. Manaphy is so annoying for Veps to be because this thing gets one or two Tailglows up. Like literally one is like two shotting if OHKOing everything on the team, which is really going to be bad for Veps here, but I do think it's going to be really good for Nexus here. Don't think it brings Muck. Muck's really not that good unless he really does not want to deal with T spikes from the Glamora, which then I can understand why he would feel like he needs to bring the Muck. I think that was everything. Yep. So in terms of this matchup, um, God, this is tough because I think Vepsis has a really good defensive backbone paired with some offense, where Nexus has good offensive backbone paired with good defenses. Um, uh, mm, you know what? I'm gonna go with my guy Nexus. I usually don't vote against Vepsis for some stuff like this, but I'm going with my guy Nexus. I really think Nexus is gonna pull this off. I really think he can do it. I really believe in him. I know this is definitely gonna be his comeback time right now. I definitely believe that Nexus is gonna pull it this way. Up next, we've got quite the interesting matchup here. Oh, they just barely missed out each other, so I can't do this well. We've got Amal taking on Seabad, which should be really interesting because Chase gets to take on Mr. Unpredictability himself. And I am looking forward to seeing what Amel's going to cook against Chase. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Chase is going to do to combat Amel's trickery. So, Amel's scene, if we didn't forget, is Lugia, Dialga Origin, Iron Bundle, Blood Moon Ursulina, Terracomo, Gengar, Umbreon, Superior, and Hatterene. Where Seabad, aka Chase's team, is Deoxys, Garchomp, Clefable, Indeedee, Terra Iron Hands, Corviknight, Metagross, Chi-Yu, Araquanida, Araquanid, and Terra Drift Blim. So, looking at this matchup from Seabad's perspective, Lugia is a weird wild cardish mod. It's kind of good this matchup, but it's also kind of niche. Like it's a mod that's gonna be forced 100% to be running boots this matchup because there's running hazards. I do think the fact that there are two solid stealth rockers on the team here, I do think that Emo will have to be running boots. So breaking multi-scale will be a little harder to deal with from Seabat's side, but I think he has potential. But again, I don't know if it's going to be brought. It's a really wild card mon. Dialga Origin's a very interesting story here, where I don't even know if it's going to be brought. It's kind of tough to bring it this week because the fighting coverage from a lot of Pokemon, also dealing with both Garchomp and Iron Hands, which can just almost one shot you with a fighting type or ground type move. It's gonna be a little tough to bring that. Also a Corviknight, but again, you have Thunderbolt, so who knows? And then dealing with the offensive prowess that is Chi-Yu. It's gonna be interesting to see how he can bounce that. But I do think the Alga Origin could decently come, but it's gonna be a little bit tough to prove. Blood Moon, I don't think counts. Now, here's the reason why I don't think Blood Moon has a good matchup here. Blood Moon can't really do much when stuff gets set up and stuff gets going. I also think when you look at something like Terra Iron Hands, which can just be an assault fast pivot and just deal with taking the hits from the Blood Moon, and also Corviknight to just wall it. It's really annoying. Also, it's like a Raquanid, a Drift Limb. Well, Drift Limb doesn't matter too much, but I just don't think Blood Moon matches up that well. I do think Blood Moon could still come 100%, but I don't know if it really matches that well. Como will be interesting here. I think there's a couple of options for Como that we can see. I think Terra Normal with Boom Burst makes a ton of sense. Terra Fire to be able to have a Terra Blast or a boosted Flamethrower coverage for Corviknight and Metagross. Just insane value from these Como that we could see here this week. So very interested to see how Animals going to prepare with that. Superior, don't think we see that coming. Don't think it's really that good in this matchup. Hatterene, another Pokemon I don't think we really see in this matchup. Something that good. Umbreon could see it being brought, but I don't think it matches up well into what Seaback can do with it. I don't think it's a worse mon in this one. Gengar definitely comes. Gengar is super strong into Chase, as he does not have a really good combination between Ghost and Poison on his team, and really kind of just doesn't really want to take those hits from Gengar. So I definitely think Gengar does come this week. And last but not least, is the bundler, Iron Bundle himself. Definitely think it's coming. It's pretty good mon offensively in this matchup. Excuse me, offensively. I think a Specs variant looks really good because water resistance is strictly just the Arequinid, non-Terra, out of anything else. So definitely think Specs Bundler can just do a ton of work this week and just really provide an immense amount of pressure. Now, from Seabad's side of things, Deoxys is very interesting here. Deoxys can definitely be a very annoying threat of a Pokemon for Anemo if he's not prepared for it. I do think with what he has for his team, I don't think Deoxys is that good. But again, he's an Ubers league, and not bringing one of or not both your Ubers is kind of a throw in not doing anything. So I really think he's going to be forced to do that. But I do think Deoxys doesn't have a bad matchup here. I kind of do like Indeedee though this week. I think Indeedee is a really good option here because again it gives you a ghost immunity, which is really great for things like Gengar, but also boosting off some of the power that can be on that Deoxys can be really good. So I could see the niche there. I think Iron Hands is a guaranteed bring this mon is stupidly strong into Amel. Amel has really no switches to this Pokemon. It is that destructive. I wouldn't be surprised to see a choice band set from Chase this week, as it does a ton of damage to his team. Garchomp, definitely think it's a kind of like a 50-50 mon. Like it's good, but it's bad at the same time. Gets outsped by Gengar and actually could die to Icy Wind, believe it or not, if it's not, if it's an offensive chomp. Bundle kills it. Dialga Origin, if it lives a hit, kills it back. Lugia has Ice Beam coverage and kills it. Como kills with a Dragon move and it can just be out of Terra, so it doesn't have to be weak against some stuff. So I don't know if we see Chomp. Clefable, I think we see it come. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't come. It's a weird, another one of those weird matches where Clefable's good and bad. I think Clefable is good for what it's going to provide into the matchup. I think it's bad when you match up against stuff like a Dialga Origin or a Como that is Terra type that can beat it, or a Gengar. So I don't know. It matches up well into other things, but we'll have to wait and see. Chi-Yu, really strong Mon this week, as there was no good fire switching on Amel's team besides the Como O, which then, if a prediction can explode, gets proven. Psychic almost gets one shot, forced to run its barrier or whatever, and then pretty much then no fire switching. Super strong Mon this week. Araquanid, don't know if you bring it. It's not that great of a Mon this week. If it was Terra, I would say it definitely guaranteed bring, but it's not going to be Terra. I don't know if it's that strong. It's definitely decent, and I do think it can provide good offensive pressure, but I don't think it's going to really do you anything from a defensive standpoint. Terra Driplim. This could be a very wild card Pokemon if we see Terra on the Driplim. Driplim has a lot of unique uses out of it, and it can do a lot of work. So it will be interesting to see how it is going to do for him, but we'll have to wait and see. I think there's some potential here. There's some potential here, but we'll have to wait. Corviknight is interesting. I think an Iron Defense, Whirlwind, Body Press, Roost set is really good. And then obviously you can debate whether you want Whirlwind or having something like Iron Head or Power Trip on there to hit the Gengar. I just think fighting coverage against Amel is really strong. So I can see a set like that doing the work. Metagross, I don't think comes. Metagross is not really that strong here this week. It's a really good Pokemon, don't get me wrong. But I think with the fact that it's not going to be able to take Specs hits with a bundle, Earth Power such Earthquake from some of the other mons that Emil has, and the fact they just take one hit and just revenge it easily, I don't think Metagross comes. But in terms of the matchup here, again, another one I don't really know because it's kind of like a weird one, right? Like Amel has a few pieces that just destroy Chase, and Chase has a few pieces that can destroy Amel here. I think I'm gonna pick. Hmm, I think I'm gonna go with Chase. I think I'm gonna go with Chase on this one. I think Amel probably will win this one, but I just think Chase's team. I think he's got a lot of more pieces to work with since Amel does have a little bit more shorter draft. I think Chase can function his pieces around, and I think he can take up this win. But this should be a really interesting game, and I really hope Chase is ready to get messed up by Amel because Amel will bring anything that's wacky and will make it work. And Amel, I'm waiting for Choice Band or Choice Specs Umbreon. Bring me the sauce, man. Bring me the sauce. Up next, though, this should be fun. It's gonna be Viz versus Kyle A. And I'm looking forward to this one, man. So let's look rock it out here. We got Viz here with the Deoxys Attack, who has really let himself down these last couple of weeks, man. From missing against Keegan, then missing against CD Marcus. Damn. Really bad sauce there, man. But well, we got Deoxys Attack, Shaman Sky, Hisuian Samurai, Archaladon, Palafin, Pelipper, Ursaluna, Volt, and Mimikyu with the Terra Captains being the Ursaluna that is just destroying everybody in the Volt. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I didn't think Terra Ursaluna would be all that crazy. And I still respect it as a good Pokemon with Terra. But the way Viz has played with this thing, like just making a defensive tank set up and just click buttons, this man just knows exactly what he's doing with this Pokemon. It is insane how good of a trainer he is with this mon. Really, really love that for him. And he's taking on Kyle. He's got Chimpao, Great Tusk, Ditto, Iron Moth, Sylveon, Rotom Wash, Arbolive, Jirachi, Spidops, Trapinch, and the Giratina. So, looking at it from Kyle's perspective, Deoxys Attack. I click buttons into you. But I will say this, the Oxys attack may actually potentially not be brought. Now, you may be thinking that's a crazy statement to make, but it's kind of true, because like, think about it, right? Sucker Punch from Chimpow. Ditto being faster and can OHKO you if you'll move to hit you. Trapinch, which can trap you and take a hit from you. Giratina lives one hit and revenge is easy, with Shadow Sneak priority in the back. I actually don't know if Viz is going to bring this Pokemon against Kyle. It's really, really tough for him to do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. His second Uber in Shaman Sky. I honestly wouldn't be too surprised to see Shaman. Obviously, dealing with Shinpao could be a little annoying, but other than that, I think he takes on most things that Kyle has. Can we also shout out the Ditto for being the second best Mon on Kyle's team, worth having 5 kills? Shouts to that. um, I think overall, um, it's pretty okay mon. I don't know if it's guaranteed. I think our Chaladon is a decent bring here. I definitely think it's got some decent usage here. It can be a really good check to things like the Chinpow to an extent. Mimikyu is also very interesting, as Mimikyu can be pretty strong into most of the team that Kyle has. So it's definitely a really strong mon. Maybe we'll finally get to see some offensive Mimikyu here. Uh, Volts would see it being brought. I don't think it's gonna be the Terra choice though this matchup, because Terra Ursaluna. What stops Terra Ursaluna? Like a bulk up, like I would say mixed defensive Ursaluna with bulk up. I think Kyle will just lose. Honestly, Kyle will just lose. But now here's the thing though: Ditto's gonna be the wild card. And we're gonna talk about that when we get into Viz's matchup here. But I think it's just really strong here. Rain is interesting choice in this matchup if he brings Rain with Pelipper or just Pelipper in general, or even just Palafin in general. I think Rain's not bad. I do think it's not the greatest, but I do think Palafin can do some damn work. Obviously, the only real good check to Palafin right now is going to be the Rotom Wash and a fully Fizz Def Arbolive, if that's going to be the case. And also, Palafin gets countered by, again, his own nemesis in Ditto, which I think is going to be really interesting. Suing Samurai, do you think it's a 50-50 bring on this one? It's really good mod to potentially set up spikes with, because you can kind of just click that for almost free. So very interested to see how that'll go. Now with Kyle's team, Chimpao is a monster. Chimpao does demolish most of Kyle's team very offensively. The Giratina actually could potentially not be showing up because it's got a pretty kind of bad matchup. I'm not gonna lie to you into Viz's strat. So, but we could see it potentially brought. Who knows? Trapinch, if he's broad, he's broad. Arbolive, I don't think it's a terrible matchup here. I think Arbolive can check a lot of things decently well, but I don't think it's a guaranteed bring. But we'll have to wait and see. Sylveon, definitely a pretty strong mon as there is no fairy resist on Viz's team. So Sylveon can just literally claim alive or two-shot something, which I think is really great. Jirachi, a very interesting mon this week. If it's going to come, I do think it's going to be forced to be choice Scarf or Cobra Berry. It's one of the two options that I do think it's going to be brought here. And then again, Kyle's another really cool creative builder for the most part. And taking on someone like Viz, who kind of does some wacky offensive stuff. It will be very interesting to see how this matchup will go. What else does Kyle have that we talked about? Spite ups. Definitely think spite ups is 100% coming. It is going to be the lead and trying to get up one or two hazards on this side of the field. I think sticky webs makes the most sense to be brought in this matchup. So definitely something that you gotta keep up with that. Great Tusk, I don't think comes when there are three water types and a psychic type, and a flying type, and a fairy type. I don't think you bring Great Tusk. It is a really bad matchup. Iron Wolf is a really strong here. Iron Wolf can really be doing booster speed sets can be really good too. And again, like something like Terra Water, Terra Dark, maybe Terra Fairy, who knows? There's a super strong Mon into this matchup. And now Ditto. Ditto is 1,000,000% coming. Viz can't do what he wants to do because of Ditto. Like Ditto is going to stop Viz in his tracks for whatever Viz wants to do, which I find funny because Viz has been a super creative player and goes with a really super strong offensive build. He can't be that offensive if he wants to deal with Ditto copying him and just destroying him with this mod. So definitely going to be something that Kyle is going to take advantage of fully well and just really punish him offensively with. For this matchup, though, I'm picking my man Kyle. I think Kyle has one of his best matchups right now. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I think it really is a really strong matchup here for him. I think just provides him a really good match here. But definitely, it's Viz. Viz has shown that he can just do anything with a Pokemon and just nab KOs, nab them wins, and I just think he's overall going to be really strong here. But I will be picking Kyle because I really do believe in Kyle's matchup, and I think it's going to be really strong. Two more matches here. Up next, we have got my buddies John and Owen finally duking it out. We got John's team, which is Hollow, Kieran Black with Goldango, Iron Boulder with Terra, Grimmsnarl, Toad Scroll, which has surprisingly come to 3 games, the Galarian Wheezing, Azelf, Swampert, and Grotto. Whereas my buddy Owen's team is the Dialga, Fluttermane, Terra Mew, Crocodile, Ogerpon, Cornerstone, Quavel, Weezing, Shaman, Rotopeet, and the Sableye. Looking at it from Owen's perspective, Iron Boulder just clicks buttons. Iron Boulder is super strong in this matchup, is super broken as well, but there is going to be something that John is going to be forced to do. He will have to be forced to choose between potentially clearing it or booster speed because Crocodile is going to be intimidated this matchup if Crook is brought. We'll talk about that in a second. But Iron Boulder, probably the best mon in this matchup. Sorry if you heard that, by the way. It was just my pen. But it's a super strong matchup for this mon. It does really well. It can just do a lot of things, and it's going to be really annoying for Owen to really kind of play around this Pokemon because it's going to be really tough for him to break. Now let's get to the Ubers. I think Ho does pretty decently well in this matchup. I don't think there's a lot that Ho actually kind of struggles with. I think the only things that Ho is going to be really concerned with is potentially rock coverage from a couple of Pokemon and also the Ogerpon. But Ogerpon has a decent chance to potentially not show up. Well, who knows? That's not a confirmed here nor there if it doesn't show up. But Ho-Oh's not terrible this matchup. I do think John does bring Ho-Oh. It's a pretty strong mon. It can do this dual stab does pretty damn well into the majority of Owen's team. I do think he's going to have to rock out with potentially a rock move if Ho-Oh does to deal with Rotom if Rotom's going to be brought. So definitely going to be interesting to see what kind of Ho-Oh he's going to do. Cheer Black, really strong mon this matchup, and it kind of just can win the game. With its ability, it will ignore the sturdy from Quarterstone if it goes for the Ice with Spear. It pretty much will obliterate that Pokemon. And then with Earth Power's potential coverage against the Rotom Heat, it pretty much will echo that. So this is looking like a super strong Chiron Black endgame for John, and it's definitely going to be really something tough for him to really put in position, but he definitely put in really good offensive work. Grottle, I want to believe in Grottle, but I don't think this is a Grottle matchup just yet. Let him rest, John, let him rest. Swampert, I don't think you bring it when there's two grass types, and I just don't think it's really that good in this matchup. I definitely think I think underestimated using Swampert for Ubers. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's too late now. Transactions are final. Galarian Wheezing, do you think it's a fair shot at bring it comes? It's not that bad in this matchup. Dialga's obviously the main thing you can't really do much with touch with. Obviously with Wheezing, you could be Spadef or Fizdef, check all the things and just deal with things like that, but I don't think it's 100% broad. Azov is interesting. Azov offensively is really strong here. I think a Scarf physical set looks really good. Drain Punch spam can look like a really scary end game. And also just like something like maybe Focus Sash with bulk. Like, I wish there was some physical setup for Azov. That would really work well for Azov right now. But Azov offensively is really strong here. It can definitely do a lot of work for him. Toad Scroll. It's Toad Scroll. Grimmsnarl, I do think is a very fair shot because he's a good screen setter for this matchup. Screens is really good here. Goldengo, another Pokemon that actually can kind of do pretty damn well this matchup. I do think it's 100% going to be Berry though. Now, I think it's forced to be Berry because it needs to be able to take on that Fluttermane very well, especially if it gets a Nasty Plot up. I think Nasty Plot Recover, Make It Rain Shuttable, pretty much a standard set. Does really well into things here. As much as I think John would love to probably be Shuka or Cobra for a Crook, I do think Cassia is supposed to be respected and can do for that reason. I think that was everything from John's standpoint. Yes, it was. Now we're gonna look at it from Owen's perspective. I think Dialga kind of goes dummy stupid here. Dialga is super strong here. Obviously, there's a couple things that Dialga is not gonna really want to deal with, nor kind of want to struggle with something like potentially the Cure Black, which is outspeeded, the Iron Boulder, depending on the Terra. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But I do think Dialga's pretty strong. Fluttermane, I'm just gonna click Moonblast again. Click Shadow Ball again. Like, let me just click Shadow Ball. I think honestly, Owen drafted such a perfect duo. Honestly, he's definitely was one of my top three, if not my top five favorite combos with people that got two Ubers. Just that combo of Dialga and Flurry is just insane because again, you can just spam one. You have one of your Ubers just spam attacks, while the other one just does whatever it wants. Like it's such a strong mod. I really, really like the Fluttermane matchups. It's super really good here. Mew is interesting. Mew, I think, could be a little bit more of a defensive route, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a more of like an agility weakness policy, nasty plot, Dragon Dance, Calm Mind, Bulk Up, Mew. Who knows? But it'll be very interesting to see how this Mew is going to be played. Crook is a really tough mon this week. I think Crook can definitely come. I don't know what kind of Crook set we see though. I don't know if we see defensive Crook with Intimidate and a kind of sweeper set with Moxie, or even like a Moxie, like a sweeping Crook potential, even with an Intimidate. It's going to be really interesting. I don't know if Crook's 100% being brought, but I do think it's got a fairly good shot in this matchup. Coquavel is actually really strong here. Coquavel can actually do a lot of damage into John, but Coquavel is overwhelmed by the fact that there is a Ho-Oh there and a Freeze Dry Fusion Blow to cure him. But I don't think it's the worst matchup for it. I know I do think there's a chance that Owen will not bring Coquavel, but I do think Coquavel does pretty well, and I do need to recognize how good of a one offensively it can be. Sableye, honestly, not a bad shout. Can Thunderwave stuff, get screens up, who knows? Rotom Heat, not a really bad matchup for Rotom Heat. Rotom Heat can do a lot of things here. It can Will-O-Wisp stuff, it can Volt Switch out, it can set up screens. Definitely not a terrible mon this matchup. Ogerpon, Cornerstone, it's really tough for Owen, right? Because like I think he really, really, really wants to bring this mon because it really just kind of crushes the Ubers that John does have. The only problem that Owen faces is the fact that the Cure Black gets a +1 off, then it's really bad. But also the fact that the Cure Black is also generally scarfed, if not anything. So definitely gonna be a tough bring for there, but I do think there's a good chance that we do see it. Shaman, don't really think that's being brought. Shaman's really not that good in matchup. If Shaman's brought, it's only gonna be used for healing, which support, if anything. Wheezing, I actually don't hate Wheezing this matchup. I think Wheezing with Levitate is really good here with having Will-O-Wisp this matchup. I think is really good here. I wouldn't hate the idea of neutralizing gas Wheezing because that means you can Will-O-Wisp freely on the Goldengo. You can potentially um Haze on the Goldengo as well if it's set up or Memento on it. Who knows? But it's one of those things where I think it's okay, but I don't think it's going to be a guaranteed brought to this matchup. And that's everything. And as much as I'm gonna pick if I love as I love John, and I do love John, I do think I'm gonna have to pick my boy Owen OG Obina. Just because I really think Owen has a better matchup into John than John is gonna have a matchup in John Owen. Really think it's gonna be a good matchup though, 100%. I definitely think it can go either way, but I just think Owen's got the pieces to be a little bit more offensive into this matchup. And the last match is going to be my main man, Jason, aka Diet Tight. And I'm telling you right now. So by the time this gets uploaded, obviously the week 6 games have already been played. By the time I show you this video, right? Because obviously you've seen the gameplay, so this is week 5. These are the week 5 games you're going to see during week 6. So we have a chance to bring some Pokemon this week. And I'm telling you right now, we're trying to cook up a Meteor set that is going to straight up sweep CB Marcus. We are going into the laboratory to get this set to work. Because let's be honest here. Look at CB's team. Where is the rock and flying switching? Non existent. There is an Excadrill, but that thing is going to tear out of that typing and lose. And if anything, we don't even need a Rock Stab. We just need flying Terra Blast coverage. And honestly, that's it. That's this Mullen is stupidly strong this week. And we're going to get into it. First, let's break down these matches. First is Jason's team. He's got Zamazenta Origin, Giratina Origin, Necrozma, with Terra, Thunderous, Incarnate, Azumarill, Mamoswine, Fortress, Hisuian Quillfish, and the Terra Minior, where CB Marcus' team is the Palkia, Dragapult, Zapdos, Excadrill, which can Terra, Tentacruel, Tyranitar, Moltres, Ribombay, Voltorb, Hisui, and the Mian Shao. So let's talk about from CB's side. From CB's side, I definitely think Zamazenta is a massive threat into his team as he does not have a lot of ways to kind of play around that. Obviously, defensive Moltres is going to be an option. Robombi, which I believe can speed die with this Pokemon. I'm pretty sure it does. I would look at Showdown, but I don't want to lead show you guys my teams. And honestly, I felt like I delayed everything else. I'm going to really look it up. But with Rabambi, I think pretty much speed tying, if not maybe being a little unfaster or under slow. Who knows? With the Zamazenta, it's definitely be offensive pressure there. Um, but Zama is really scary here. Giratina Origin is very interesting this matchup, as I do think it's still pretty decent, but I think it's 100% bad. Because look at this. We have Rabombi and we have T-Tar. T-Tar can honestly be Chople Berry, takes a hit, and we literally get destroyed by that Pokemon, and we can't do much about it. Super strong mon. And again, Palkia, Pole, they always revenge us no matter what, and they're just super strong. Yes, we have Shadow Sneak, which is decent enough for Pole, but again, we just get overwhelmed. But I could still see Origin coming this week, as Origin is a super strong mon. If we potentially can get somewhere where we can just get in a position to set up and win with this Pokemon, it'd be really great. But I don't really know how well we're going to be able to do this. Necrozma obviously is going to have a good matchup because it's Terra. I don't really know what Terra we're going to see this week. I think Terra Fairy could make sense. I think Terra Water could make sense. I could see Terra Ground. I could see Terra Grass. There's a lot of variants that we can go with here. Snorlax, very interesting mon this week. Um, do you think Mian Shao is a bit of a threat into most of what we have on our teams? I do think Mian Shao could come, but I mean, Snorlax is not a terrible mon this week. I think he definitely does well. Thunderous, very interesting way we can go with Thunderous. We can have it constantly change the weather, which I think is really great. Have good support for the team. It also is a really good, strong offensive mon as well. But it's going to be really interesting how we use it. Azumarill is going to be the main glue of the team this week, as Azumarill can beat the top 2 dragons that Marcus has. It beats the Moltres that he has, beats the T-Tar that he has, and more importantly, can beat the Extra. Now, Extra, I think, is 100% forced to run, in my opinion, 2 Terracaps. Here's why, and I'll explain why. Water and grass. Now, we go grass because it's a really good defensive typing, and we'll give him coverage where he can be able to not worry about the Berry on something like a Mamoswine. Now, the only risk with grass is that you do lose to Minior with Flying Stab and History and Goldfish's Poison Stab. Hence why this is the main Terra choice I am 100% expecting from Marcus, and that is Terra Water. Now, Terra Water is a really good bring because it's a perfect defensive typing into things like the Azumarill, the Fortress, the Mamoswine, and the Minior from an offensive standpoint. Minior has not Terra. Now, with water, it also gives him a really good Terra option of attack to hit things like the Mamoswine, like the Snorlax, or the Necrozma that is Terra into the typing that it can lose to, that doesn't resist the ground and steel coverage that Extra does contain. But I do think it is going to be something that Marcus is going to be forced to be running because of things like the Azumarill in this matchup here. Mamoswine, I definitely think Mamoswine is going to finally come off the bench here. Mamoswine is super strong into Marcus. I do think there's going to be certain ways we have to run Mamo this week, but I think Mamo's debut is finally going to come through because it's the one of two Pokemon we have not used on this team yet, and definitely think in the future Jason should definitely not draft a ground type. That's not going to be very ringable if it can't use it. Which there were some matches I definitely think Mamo should have came, but Jason obviously will have to win against that, so there is that. But I do think this is a Mamo matchup, as there's not a lot that Marcus can do against it. Fortress makes sense, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't bring Fortress. Fortress is a really good hazard bot, even though, yes, Marcus has two spinners. But I do think it's still a decent mon to use because of body press and stuff like that, but I don't think it's 100% going to be broad. Studian Quillfish, again, another Pokemon that we can pretty much bring to would be a good Dragon Ball check and a lot of checks to other things, but it's not a guaranteed bring. And our boy, the GOAT Minior, we really want Minior to pop off. Like this is one of the best, and probably not the only good matchup Minior is going to have. Now, if we do bring Terra Minior, I do think Necrozma, if it does not have its Terra, is not a bad mon in this matchup still. I think it's very good offensively and can provide really good offensive pressuring and has enough coverage to really hit where we can still hit if we don't really need it. So. But from Marcus's point of standing, I think Palkia is super threatening. Palkia kind of just obliterates us if we're not careful. Palkia is just a massive menace to society and is going to be really annoying. Same with Dragapult. Dragapult, another monster that we just do not have good switches for. Obviously, we have Relax, but if Relax gets burnt or we're not Rest Sleep Talk, we really can't do much with our Snorlax. And our move set for Snorlax is insanely limited to what we can do. And we can just lose a 1v1 if we are not careful. Zapdos is very annoying for our team offensively. Electric plus flying spam literally just do us in. We have no good switches to that Pokemon. Excadrill is a monstrous of Pokemon that can really just, if it sets up, it kind of just wins. It will stop us from doing anything we can do and just overwhelm us. Tentacruel, don't really know if it comes. It's kind of a mixed mon this matchup where it's kind of good for bad, but I don't know. It's kind of weird this one. T-Tar again. I think this is kind of a honestly a bad T-Tar matchup, but I think Marcus has to bring it for Sen. For Sand, I do expect Marcus to be Choppleberry though. I think Marcus is going to bring it as a Chopple set, not to have sets where the Sand needs to be reliant for Excadrill, but where Excadrill can at least start breaking and then still be used in the back if need be. Moltres, another one that's pretty decent, but I don't think it's 100% a guaranteed good bring this week. Ribombee, another Pokemon that can do the kind of same thing where it can just do a lot. Obviously, the only resistance we're going to have to that Pokemon on our team will be the Fortress. But again, Fortress could may or may not come. Who knows? But I think Ribombee offensively can do this. Hisuian Voltorb is the biggest threat. It is the biggest threat known to mankind. I don't know how we're going to beat that thing. It's going to be it's going to be a challenge, but we will find a way to beat that thing. We will make sure we are prepped 5,000 mocks for this Pokemon. Huh. But Mienshao, definitely think Mienshao has a fair shot being brought. This thing's a really good breaker into our team. A Life Orb is super scary into the team that we can potentially bring. And also, he's a super strong Pokemon that does have to be the majority of everything we do have besides the Zamazenta and the Thunderous Incarnate. The chances of us not bringing something like Psychic is very likely, so we definitely take advantage of that there. And just a Scarf Set could also just do really destructive. So looking at the matchup here, I do think Marcus does have a lot of things, but we also have a lot of things that can do well into Marcus. But if I'm gonna pick anything, I don't want to vote against Jay, but I think I have no choice but to, man. I think CB's team is just really, really good. Like the Sandcore plus Zapdos plus Mienshao and then the Ubers, it's just really really good. Now I will say this: those seven moms I did just describe, he does have to bench one of them, and again, I wouldn't be surprised to potentially see one of the dragons being benched. Now I wouldn't be surprised to see Pulp bench. Now this might sound crazy that I say that, but Pulp being benched is not a bad thing in this matchup. Necrozma can always outspeed it with a Dragon Dance and knock it out. Giratina can always revenge it. Snorlax walls it for the Enacon. End of time. Thundurus can always Thunder Wave it, and Azu can always take a hit and revenge it with that. And then obviously Mamoswine. With Palkia, it lets less weaknesses into the matchup here, and it can check a lot more things offensively. So I would not be surprised to see Marcus not have Pulp this week. But like I said, Palkia, Zapdos, Drill, T-Tar, and Mienshao are going to be most likely going to be the main mods brought this week. But like I said, would not be surprised to see a substitute out there, and I would not still see Rousey the Bolt, but I do think Marcus sets up a really good matchup. And the game of the week that we are going to go with here, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be Nexus versus Vepsis. Y'all thought I was going to pick OG Albina and Majan. No, you're wrong. I think honestly, Vepsis and Nexus have really good matchups into each other. And I think this could be a fire game, and I'm really looking forward to it. That being said, thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Definitely go check out every single coach down in the description. And definitely go check out Jay Ricky, who's going to do his own analyst content, who I know hasn't really been uploading yet, but still, I would like you guys to subscribe to Jay Ricky. He's honestly a really cool guy. Does a lot for the community when it comes to editing people's videos and just being honestly a really good friend to a lot of people. So definitely go check out Jay Ricky as well, even if his analyst content is going to take a while to be coming up there. But yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!